Call our study session to order at 5:34. First up, we have a public comment period, and this is a time for the public to come up, make comment at the podium. You can state your name, address. You've got 3 minutes in order to do that, about anything that's not on the agenda this evening. So if anyone has public comment, I'll go ahead and invite you on up to the podium. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the roundtable discussion amongst council members. And council members, this is a time for us as a council just to kind of bring up any thoughts that we have had. If we have any questions for staff, want updates on anything, this is just a time that we can do that and talk amongst ourselves. Joel.
Real quick, for the new council members, these microphones, push the button. Green light means your microphone is on. No green light means your microphone is off. So if you're going to speak, we just ask that you have the green light on and you speak into it. The meetings are recorded live on YouTube, and that way the sound is carried more clearly through that system. Sorry, Delora. Thank you.
Thank you for the tip, Joel. We still sometimes forget, so I appreciate the reminder too. So I'm just going to start and say I'd like to welcome the new and returning council members to the podium here. So Mike Cedar, thank you so much for running again and welcome. Dave Redding, same to you. Thanks for running again. And Bill, welcome. I don't know if everyone is familiar with everybody, so I just thought we could take a couple minutes and, introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about what made you decide to run for council, if you have any major passions. And for me especially, if you have a committee or a commission that you are interested in, because we will need to start assigning council members to commissions here as well. So, Mike, what brought you back?
Well, I have time. Hello? Green is on? Isn't it green? Oh, now we got it. It's like the old karaoke nights now. I have time, so I thought this was a good time to jump back in and give back to the community. If there's ever any concerns, give me a call at home, my cell phone, stop by, any of that good stuff. We'll listen.
How about you, Dave? Just introduce yourself and let everybody know.
Yeah,
a little bit about you.
I'm Dave Redding. I've lived in Allegan for about 12 years now. I chose to run again because it was a pretty short term my first time through, and I feel like I've learned a lot, and so I'm hoping to be able to contribute more this second term.
Awesome, thank you. And how about you, Bill?
I've been a resident of Allegan my whole life. I was born here. My wife Jan in the audience. My passion for being on the city council is to help clean up the city. I would like to see more done with the trash and things like that around our community. The historical district, I'm interested in that. So that's it. Those are the things that I was running for.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And again, welcome everybody. Did anyone else have anything for roundtable today or any questions? Roger?
Yeah, actually, I had a couple of trash-related questions. The first, or maybe not questions, but just maybe more. The first one's just more of a statement or an encouragement. Just now being downtown, like we spent a lot of time downtown, but now living down here, when we get into the spring, going into next year, we really need to add trash cans downtown. They're spaced too far apart. I know that there's a formula or whatever that we're using that says that we're meeting the criteria, but in practicality, we're not. It's just too hard. And I think if there's a trash can close by, people will pick up garbage and throw it away. But if it's not close, they're just not going to do it. So that's my 2 cents on that. And the second one is a recurring issue, an ongoing issue. What do we do about the Herbie Kirby's down on the riverfront? That trash goes out on Tuesday night, and as of 2 o'clock today, there were still 2 cans out from last week. Like, that's unacceptable. So I don't know, do we ticket people? I know this has been a sore subject, but it's ridiculous. we're adults, pull your trash can in. You were gonna say.
I wasn't gonna say anything.
You look like you were gearing up this with some sort of
I was getting,
comment.
I was kind of gearing up. I was revving the engine just a little bit. I agree, it's an ongoing issue. I will say if staff, specifically if Parker's down there and he knows it's not near a trash day, he does grab them and roll them. I've watched him do that multiple times.
Which is great, but that's not Parker's job.
Correct. I would offer, there is a misunderstanding in our ordinance of having to move the trash back to your property line, because it references I thought you were giving me a note to read. It references, like you put it out, 12 hours before, then 24 hours after at the right-of-way.
Yeah.
Not really a right-of-way down there. It's a park. So, tomato, depending on how you want to interpret that. We did go out for bid for our downtown, since you're just speaking specifically about the downtown.
Right.
So we did go out for bid for trash services for the downtown. Republic was the only one that submitted a bid. It was a very reasonable bid based on what our projections were earlier this summer. We are struggling to get numbers from contractors to build the enclosures. So we are actually going to go out for a design build bid now to see if we can try to get some contractors to give us some design build quotes. I mean, we know the general location for all of these refuse and recycling stations. I can forward your complaint to our city attorney to make sure we're on legal standing. The last thing I want to do as a city manager is start writing tickets if we really aren't confident that we have the right to ticket a property owner.
So do we need to adjust the verbiage in our ordinance to make it clear that,
I would offer we should look at that whole chapter
yeah,
and clean it up. We had another issue with a lady who lived at the end of Monroe, over in where Pine and Monroe come together. Republic refused to go up her driveway, and we had to reach out to Republic and prove to them that it wasn't a driveway, that it was just a dead-end street, and she happened to be the only house on that dead-end street at the very end. And since then, they've, are starting to pick up her trash up there, because she wasn't gonna roll it all the way down to Pine. She was gonna roll it to the edge of her property like everyone else in Allegan. So, I think, Roger, I apologize. I'm used to Dave sitting
Dave
over
used to
there, so. I think that is something that, as a council, if you really want to roll up your sleeves, because I went, the former council member McKenzie and I had multiple conversations on that. And that ordinance section, that chapter, to me, isn't that clear. And I think, Peter, you might have been part of those email exchanges. To me, it just really isn't that clear on what the rules and responsibilities are, And then we got to get into our residential ones, and, are neighbors allowed to share dumpsters? For cost savings, or are they not allowed? So.
okay.
Just to piggyback on that then, Joel, once we get some of these bids back, that refuse program will come back to like DDA and council for you, Parker, nod your head? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we discussed it ad nauseum at the DDA level, as you know, we've had a couple public meetings. I brought it to council a couple times during the study session, so I don't think anything should be surprising.
Right.
On the point scale, how we're gonna go through this, the ordinance creation. But that's more of the, that's just the downtown. I do think you have other trash issues, residential trash issues in your neighborhoods as well. And I'm just talking about Kirby's in the residential neighborhoods, not the blight issue, which I think is a little different than the angle you're going.
Thank you. Anybody else? Peter, did you have anything to address today?
Looked at there's like a sidewalk that goes down. I sent an email about it to Joel and yourself. The sidewalks that go down behind Hillside, and I'm not even sure if they're city, if they're Hillside, if we're responsible for the maintenance on them, but there's some handrails that are missing and some washouts happening under them. And when I look at the properties, it looks like they're on private property, or if we have a right-of-way, or if Hillside or whoever built them, who's got to maintain them.
When did you send that
I
email?
know, I don't
I
recall seeing.
sent it earlier today, I'll have to send it
Okay.
again, see if it
Yeah.
didn't send. So I took a couple photos. So there's specifically a sidewalk that goes from the end of Hubbard, and it goes up at quite an angle up to Hillside at the end of the corner of Academy and
Crescent.
Crescent. And there's another one that goes the other way in a staircase. That one that's going up there has a lot of underpinning where it's been washed out, has railing that's missing in a section, so somebody going down, if they miss it, which has happened to somebody, will go tumbling down the hill. But I'm not sure if we put them in or how they're established, because it's not actually on city property, it's not on a right-of-way. Part of it's on a right-of-way, but it cuts through 2 or 3 private properties, one of them Allegan and ASA, and 2 other private properties, because the properties up on Crescent or Academy there actually go all the way across the street, and they're divided by the street. So I was looking at the GIS, just trying to figure out who owns it, who built them, who's got to maintain them, and if we got to do some fixing of some washouts and some other things that are happening on them, just to make them safe again.
Doug Codsman and I will go out there. I walk that occasionally. I mean, it's haphazard design, and I'm sure, I could be wrong, but it's probably a remnant of when the old Allegan High School was at the top of that hill.
And the
And
junior
that's how the
high
kids
school.
down low got the school up high.
And they still do currently, they cut through there.
Okay.
On their way home, they'll cut through that neighborhood and use those paths down from the high school and the middle school, the ones that walk. So,
But there's some busted up sidewalk, there's the railings that are
There's some-
missing.
well, there's specifically, the way that one was set up, there's a drainage that happens at the top and kind of a curb section on the left that allows that water to continue to flow down to Hubbard Street. And there's a couple sections where that, whatever, a ditch or whatever you want to call it, just a place in the sidewalk that's lower for it, have broken up, and then that water gets in and's gone underneath the sidewalk and is blown out underneath, so there's, a lack of underpinning, and it's soon gonna collapse or have other issues, but I just don't know if it's a city property or,
I was gonna ask, is it city, Joel, do you know that?
I do not believe it's a city right away,
It-
but I do not know who put it in.
I didn't know if it was right away or if maybe we got an easement.
We're
and-
gonna have to do some searching, because there could be an easement that was granted over there, all those properties.
And whether we put it in or if the school at the time put it in. And now, of course, it's transferred from Allegan Public School to Allegan ASA. And so that's why I sent, and I'll have to send it again with some pictures and a GIS survey kind of showing where it is and the different properties along it and who owns
Yep.
it. Because,
And even if it's on private property, I mean, there could have been an easement. The mountain bike trail is all on private properties. And, when I first came here, I started grabbing all the easements, because I'm like, you can't have a publicly owned and maintained path on private property without your appropriate legal documents. That's a little too rough.
yeah. And I noted in that same neighborhood that we have roads, of course, that don't exist as usual throughout the city that we have to address at some point as well. Because we just got to get rid of some of these right-of-ways if we're never going to build a road on them and stop having them on the maps and put it into the property owners that are there, which would increase their total property, which, why are we keeping it and they're using it. And if you look in that neighborhood, you're like, the GIS survey shows this little square and you're like, that house is not in that square, not at all. And I know how it can't be accurate at all, perfect, but specifically the one that's where Hubbard turns there, house right there, like that property looks itty bitty, but on the back of it, they're maintaining that all, which is technically a right-of-way that the city has. And they have a shed on it and all this type of stuff, and that's kind of throughout the whole city. And I know we looked at doing that before COVID, and we're probably gonna have to look at trying to bring that back up and
Correct.
clean up all these maps again. Time to hire a new intern. Because that was gonna be Perigo's job, but
Yep.
she was put to other tasks.
Yep.
Thanks, Peter. Teresa, anything from you today?
No, just welcome the new people. Glad to have you.
Dave, how about you? Anything for roundtable or any questions for staff?
There was a sign on Walnut. I think the street sign wasn't there. Do you remember, I reached out to you about that, Joel? Corner of Walnut and, yeah, okay.
Yes, you did. We checked it out. We checked with MDOT, seeing how grand is a state highway. They won't do it, so we'll order the signs and replace them. I
Okay.
think Jeff ordered them last week, but
All right.
it's on our radar.
Great, okay, thanks.
Thank you, Doug.
Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Dave. How about you, Bill? Anything for roundtable this evening? Okay. I know that most of us council members, not the new folks, got an email about the cemetery and some pathways. Did you guys all get that too? Or maybe, yeah, okay. Pathways to grave sites. It had mentioned like taking this idea to the DPW. I had also thought maybe this would be something for public spaces since they are actually the keepers, so to speak, of the cemetery, to see if they had any ideas to make the grave sites more handicap accessible, was what the email was talking about. Joel, did you not get that?
It does not ring a
Okay.
bell.
I can
so
definitely
think
forward it to you. Yeah, it was just stating that some of the more elderly individuals who are going up to visit grave sites are having difficulty because of the terrain off of the paved paths, like to get back to those sites, especially if you're in wheelchairs or anything like that. So it was becoming a safety issue as well as an impediment to their grieving. So I don't know what council thinks about that, if that's something we'd like maybe to send to public spaces, recommend staff to put that on the agenda or something. But I wanted to bring it up because I know that we all got that email.
I wouldn't mind sending it to public spaces, but at the same time, I would also want them to look at in future expansion of the cemetery, if we want to change the rules to flat headstones instead of fully upright because of all the issues of getting any contract to mow it and how much expense it takes really to go out there and mow that all properly and get around all the gravestones. Holland did similar with their cemetery at one point to section off new sections that way to say, we're moving this way just to make the maintenance quicker and we can do a better job at it. It might also help with access because now you're not navigating around headstones throughout the whole cemetery.
Well, and now we get back to the cemetery rules with everything out in front of everybody's headstones. And so now we're back to square one where public spaces and council didn't agree with, so, I mean, they kind of go hand in hand with trying to make room for the gravesite accessibility with the overgrown bushes and trees and stuff like that. And, if we're gonna allow dogs in the cemetery and we're not, and all the going back to square one, where public spaces had written the rules. And we were not for them when they brought them to us. So, we certainly can ask public spaces about their thoughts, and bring it back to you, but.
If you forward me the email, I can digest it and
Okay.
then.
Yeah, absolutely. And Doug, I'll forward
can
it
of
to you
worms.
too, because they did mention the DPW as a possible department with some ideas on how to make it more accessible. So, all right. Well, if there's nothing else for roundtable, Roger?
Just, you bringing up the cemetery, kind of connected back to the trash program. Do we have any updates on moving the memorial? I know, because that's going to be a piece of all of that. Has any more happened with that, Joel?
So I do not believe we've discussed this at a city council meeting.
Oh, okay.
I've reached out to a couple council members who are veterans. So one council member, I believe, who's a veteran. And we've had conversations. And if any of the new council members are veterans, I do not mean to disrespect you. I apologize if I did. We've talked to a couple community members. And so just to bring council up to speed, we are having what I am going to call very, very, very initial discussions of what would it look like if we relocate the Veterans Memorial Plaza from the riverfront to Oakwood. The Memorial Day celebration, it's a parade, the parade always ends at Oakwood. The ceremony takes place at Oakwood. The Veterans Day ceremony happens down on the riverfront, so this Thursday, November 11th, is when they do that down there. We have a base design on where it could go in the cemetery. It would be at the northwest corner of the chapel area. So there's an open space area, kitty corner from the chapel. We believe it will work. The overall goal is twofold. One is to create a more solemn space for people to reflect and honor, those that served on behalf of the country. The other thing is to remove it from the riverfront where during July 3 Jubilee, families let their kids climb on that memorial. People just hang out down there. They take their dogs for walks through there and let their dogs do their dog things in that general area. I'll take responsibility. I planned a splash pad to activate the riverfront 20 feet from that location. So, or some people don't mind the chatter and screaming of little kids. Other people do when you're trying to be, pay honor to someone and reflect on stuff. So, again, at the very infant discussions, I still think, Roger, we need to sit down with the VFW. I've talked to Tessa a couple times. I've asked Tessa to kind of, if she could be that medium for us to connect us with VFW to have that conversation. But,
Yeah, so, I apologize. For some reason, I thought we've seen drawings in council.
you have. And I think a couple others might have seen it. I think we've
Thought
talked
we
about it
had
at
the
public
discussion,
spaces.
so I didn't mean
I
to.
know
But-
Peter's
but-
brought that up
But
before.
it's been kind of one-off conversations. We really haven't said, hey, this is the direction we're gonna go. You don't need to apologize to me ever, first of all.
Yeah, well, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. For some reason, I thought we were further in the discussion than that. Yeah, because I agree. It gets used as a jungle gym where it is right now, and it's not getting proper.
Yeah, I mean, my father served in Vietnam. I've been to the Vietnam Wall in Washington DC a few times with him.
too.
I've taken my kids there. There's some peace and quietness you should have at those kind of,
There's a sacredness.
and so that really is kind of the goal. And then I have to take responsibility. I did plan a splash pad 20 feet there, not seeing the whole big picture at that time.
If I remember right, when we talked about it at Public Spaces, they were all in favor of moving it out there.
I want to make sure we capture, you're completely correct. I just want to make sure we talk to the armed service community in Allegan and make sure we have their support in that kind of a direction.
Thank you. Thanks for the update there, Joel. Anything else for roundtable or questions for staff? Okay. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on down the agenda to the discussion regarding M89 and the Hubbard Street realignment. Joel?
All right, again, during the study sessions, we don't make decisions. I want to remind council of that. We're at a point where we need to set aside some time and really talk about this M89, M40, and Hubbard realignment. So we put together a small little PowerPoint with some images. We have some talking points that staff is going to hit. Doug Cosben is in the audience. He's been empowered to cut me off and correct me if I misspeak at any point. So he's sitting in the front row, so he can run up to the podium and say, "Not so fast." On the screen behind you or in front of you, depending on which way you're looking, is an older aerial image of M89, M40, and Hubbard and Ely. And it says Pine on Google, but that's really Hubbard. They don't know everything in the world. So north is the top of the screen, south is the bottom. This is M89 going through town. This is M40 coming up. This is South Cedar. This is an old residential home. This is the old Red Cross. About 10 to 15 years ago, the city established a vision, thank you, Parker, to realign Hubbard. So it becomes aligned with M40 coming into town right here. Again, this is M89. And we create a two-way entrance into the city or the downtown. This becomes what we would, in planning terms, call a gateway into our downtown. This sketch, if I recall correctly, was done by Prine and Newhoff, and you can see the little Prine down at the bottom. right-hand corner, I cut it off. I think they put the sketch together in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. This sketch really encouraged the previous city councils to acquire the buildings in this area, and then we acquired one over here and demo those buildings. One at 433 Hubbard, 425 Hubbard. These were demoed about 2013, and then this was done when I showed up here in 17. We bought this one in 16. Right before I showed up in the 17, this was the first demolition that took place. Let's go down to the next one. Currently, so this previous year, the city's been working with MDOT and Abonmarche because we need to come up with engineered plans for this intersection. While this concept kind of gave us a little bit of a vision, there's no way to know if geometrically these curves work, the road was wide enough, et cetera. So we brought in Abonmarche and MDOT to start coming up with some engineer drawings for this area. MDOT is planning on resurfacing M89/M40 from 26th Street all the way to M222 in 2023. So resurfacing is where they just shave off the first couple inches of the asphalt and then lay new asphalt over, what was left. We would really like to do the realignment in 2023. We'd like to rip up the main road through the Allegan community one time, not do it, 2 separate times. So we are hoping to move with a 2023 construction of that area. Thank you. So the first draft we did of the realignment, and this is a little bit flipped from what you saw before because north is up in the right-hand corner here. So I'm going to walk you through here again. And some council members remember seeing this original design. This is M89 coming up from Otsego. This is M40 coming in from Paw Paw. That's your South Cedar Street. This is the new Hubbard coming into town. This is Ely, and then this is what we would call combined M89 and M40 in this section. So this, puts in that curve like was shown back in 2013 in the original concept. This creates what we're going to call a 4-way intersection, traffic light controlled. So we have crosswalks here, crosswalks there, and crosswalks there, all controlled by a traffic, signal here in the middle. There's one there right now for 3 legs. This is a traffic signal for 4 legs. After running that, we also, Abonmarche ran this through traffic generator, looked at, traffic movements. The main issue with this first draft is we have a poor level of service for both onto and off Ely Street. And I believe I shared this with council in an email a little while ago that, we need to figure something out here. Right now, the level of service is poor. So our current situation right now isn't the greatest with traffic movement in this general area. However, we don't have that many accidents at that intersection. So while you're waiting for a while, you're shooting across the street, there isn't, a traffic accident issue per traffic safety concerns. So considering this was an issue, we looked at what would it be if we made the intersection a little bit wider to get, this Ely turn better. So this is a newer design, and you all have a copy of 11x17 of this design in front of you. So you can go home, look at this, digest this, and see where, just, give it some thought, sleep on it, et cetera. However, when we did this one, it slightly improved the level of services. We're still not to a point where we're like pumped, like we solved the problem. We haven't solved the problem here. So we went ahead and we said, okay, what would a traffic circle or a roundabout look like in this intersection? This is what a roundabout would look like in this intersection. Again, this is M89 coming up from Otsego. This is M40 coming in to the city of Allegan or downtown. That's the realignment of Hubbard. And this is M40, M89 going north towards M222. And this is Ely Street coming in. This greatly improves our level of service for Ely Street. All the other legs, the M89, M40, Hubbard legs, are pretty good legs. It's really just the Ely Street, leg or Ely Street section that's given us heartburn as we look at stuff in this general area. This design is being massaged a little bit to reduce the, not circumference, but maybe circumference.
The diameter of
Yeah,
the,
the diameter, thank you, Doug. To reduce the diameter of this circle, so it squeezes it a little bit. This slip lane is something that MDOT wants for truck movement. And then this would be taking you into the traffic circle. This is an option as well. So we're really looking at, two kind of options. The widened intersection right here, you still got the 4-leg crosswalks through here, traffic signalized. You get this dedicated left turn on the Ely, which, helps out through this system. And you get your main gateway going into your downtown still. Doug and I then took some time talking with other staff members as well and said, how do we really do not a full cost benefit analysis, but, we need to get to a point where we're talking about, what's the right decision or direction for the city to go. I will go on the record for you now. We have to do the alignment somehow. We need to line up Hubbard with M40 coming into town. We need to create a statement entrance at that intersection. It needs to be, an attractive gateway that says, you're here in Allegan. We don't want that to be a bypass, from our downtown the way it's been in years past. So we looked at factors of the cost, level of service, the gateway, the timing of construction, and pedestrian. I'm going to tell you right now, the numbers you see for realignment are different than what was in your reports. Reason being, the numbers, we got new numbers on Friday from MDOT for the widened plan. And then your report, you only saw the first draft. So I want to be clear on that right now. So you're looking at a city cost of $726,000 for the realignment. The level of service, we're comfortable that we maintain our current level of service, which is manageable. We do have more green space with the realignment, so we think the gateway is better for us, more place for landscaping or signage. Timing of construction, we're on 2023, so we're on schedule where staff wants us to be. And I believe that a signalized traffic light is safer for pedestrians. And all that stuff is up for discussion. These are just Joel's and Doug's opinions. A traffic circle, we're gonna be responsible for 40% of that cost. 40% of the, it's north of 3 million, it's like 3.3, I think is what they established. So we're looking at 1.2. Now I mentioned they're tweaking that design, so that cost could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower, but it could be higher based on what we're seeing right there. It does improve the Ely and Hubbard legs. We have less space. Timing of construction, when I put the report together, we're talking 24, 25. That was on Thursday. And then we heard on, go ahead, Doug.
yeah, we heard on Friday, if I might, Joel, that
Yeah.
it could be as late as 2028. So what they were thinking is still go do the resurface from, was it 16th to 26th?
Yeah.
On up to the start of that roundabout, pick up on the end of the roundabout, get that done in 2023, and then come back in possibly as late as 2028 to do the roundabout. Or possibly 24 or 25, they don't know, they don't have it in their program yet.
And just, it's what the world is right now, talking to MDOT. They're like, and we have all these COVID funds and infrastructure funds coming. We just don't know what we're going to get or where the needs are going to be in the state of Michigan. And we're like, okay, it'd be nice if they could give us some more exact comments from MDOT, but right now it's a little more loose. And we're I mean, and for pedestrians, you know, I don't mind roundabouts at all when I'm driving. I've never physically had to cross one, so I don't know how that works as a pedestrian or a bicyclist. So I have no experience whatsoever, so I can't give you any information on pedestrians. But I've driven through multiple roundabouts. I don't have a problem driving through roundabouts. But I do think they're not as safe for pedestrians. So, like I said, we don't vote on anything during study sessions, but we got to start having council has to start having a conversation amongst yourself, and this is the time to have this conversation on where, you know, you think we should go with this intersection. It's staff's recommendation we do something. I mean, previous councils have acquired property. There's a vision established. I think there's value to that vision of realigning that, you know, intersection. It's just, you know, how do you want to do it? Do you want to go with realignment or the traffic circle? And you might have other factors you want us to look into. We'll probably have to be clear with MDOT by December.
Timeline, yeah.
Yeah, December timeline, so we're probably about 30 days out from being clear with MDOT. So this meeting and again, in probably your second meeting in November, we'll bring this up again.
Thanks, Joel, and thanks, Doug, too. Council? Roger. You were quick on the button over there.
Well, I've been a very vocal supporter of the traffic circle, but when I saw this in our packet, like it just can't work. Double the cost. Well, it was triple the cost originally, but and then 2024, 2025, I felt was unacceptable. 2028, no way we can wait that long. And then I'm also a big proponent of walkability and being pedestrian friendly, and I hadn't really considered that with a roundabout. So I am rescinding my support for the traffic circle. Yeah, I think we need to my opinion is we need to go with a realignment.
Thanks, Roger. Mike, go ahead.
It's been some time, not to date myself, but previous city manager, we discussed that intersection because I've watched people walk down the hill and then try to frogger it across the road. And we talked about in Ann Arbor, when they show up for a game, they park in the golf course, and then there's an under road access. You just walk down the slope, go under the road, and then back up. And we talked about that in the current setting, not with a roundabout, but with a roundabout, it would just be a longer under the road. So it would actually be easier to get down to the riverfront because you would show up behind the Griswold from the top side, all the neighborhoods over there. So it's just a thought. I don't know if anyone's entertained that.
My only concern might be the high groundwater tables. Isn't there a storm drain right there, if I recall correctly? But no, that hasn't come up until now, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah, we have not had that idea floated. I've experienced the same kind of crosswalk in Munich. They have all those kinds of crosswalks on their 5-lane roads. They got little ramps for the bicyclists to roll their bikes down the ramps as they walk by them. So I'm familiar with that, but we have not looked at that price. The one thing that would be, so they're just resurfacing the road. So they're just shaving, they're not digging up anything. So there would be a cost to us excavating and digging up, but
I'm sure. It's just a thought, throwing it out there.
most definitely.
Thanks, Mike. Peter?
Yeah, so I've noticed the Ely issue with the realignment for a while. I know when we first were discussing this a number of years ago before I was on council, MDOT was very a high proponent of the traffic circle at a couple of the meetings where we were talking about this. The walkability, you crossing 2 lanes versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lanes on the highway. It's a matter of that there would have to be signals there that could actually stop the traffic to allow for pedestrians. My bigger concern is if you're talking now reducing that circle, is we have oversized loads that come down that road all the time. We have manufactured homes, we have boats, we have just industrial equipment, and they come through there. And if that apron's not big enough, because you need to have that, and when I see the Abonmarche drawings on the second page, it looks like it's a standard size semi that they're kind of representing, and it's already getting up onto that center curb. So when you introduce an oversized over-length load, there's gonna be some considerations there. The turnoff between we're coming down, what is it, from Paw Paw over to Otsego, I'm fine with that, but I would, if I'm gonna go with a traffic circle, why don't I have one going towards our downtown? Or a second lane there that if you're going right over onto Hubbard, you can just make that turn right into our downtown. And all the drawings that Abonmarche showed had nobody going to the downtown because they were showing a truck. But isn't that also a truck route to get into the downtown for deliveries, is Hubbard Street? It's one of the 2 truck routes,
I
that
don't
and
think
Water
it's
Street.
currently. I'd have to double check.
But I'm just, if trucks have to get through there to bring down deliveries for restaurants, et cetera, they have to make sure that those curbs are wide enough to make
Yeah.
those corners from the different intersections.
I do know they were looking in the conversations with MDOT and Abonmarche and city staff on the phone. And, you know, these were all go-to meetings and Zoom meetings and so forth. They were talking about that radius curb going into the downtown, being able to handle wheelbase 65 or something like that.
Right, for tractor trailers and buses.
Yeah, traffic trailers and buses. My thing was if the Griswold ever pops and we start having concert buses roll in,
Well, that's why I said if it had a wider path on that circle in that section to allow for a bypass, or that same type of bypass, it doesn't necessarily have to be that same type, it just could be, there's 2 lanes right there which would allow you to, the people in the circle to continue. I'm familiar with circles, driven them around the world, driven them in England backwards, which is always fun with a stick shift. I'm not opposed to them, but there is some issues that I have with them, which is the larger loads. We have to think of pedestrians, now the higher costs, the longer delay. When we're also looking at this, I would be looking at the church and the other accesses to that road. We have 2 exits out of the church parking lot on that one side. Would it be advantageous to say, should we have 1 or 2? That's an MDOT question because they control those access points. And if they're resurfacing, if they want to talk with the church about that. Because every access point that comes in and out there just brings one more trying to jog here or there. Which with this realignment and allowing Hubbard to go out, there's the exit on Hubbard, which allow you to go out either to the light or to the circle for if you're trying to make a cross-traffic turn. Although I have seen and not very impressed with MDOT's work up by the Love Truck Stop and the Holland Truck Stop. That is the most atrocious setup on how you get in and out of there, rather than just making it one way on the road that goes to Love's Truck Stop. They made it 2-way and said, oh, you just take a right out here, but they left it wide enough that people go take a left. And then the same with the Speedway that was just there, the back exit out of that one, it's like, oh, you can only go right onto this road, and it's like, but I need to get to the light, I need to take a left. Who put this exit here that, why didn't you just move it where we could have both directions? So MDOT kind of rubbed me the wrong way on a couple of those things where it's just like, you guys really don't seem to understand the problem. And when they came in with the circle, they said, this will be wonderful. And I think the original circle didn't even include Ely, if I remember. They had concept drawings of it back in the day, back for meetings back at the old Griswold. And I remember having community meetings about this realignment.
So Peter, I know we're not making decisions here, but would you say you're leaning more towards just the realignment itself rather than the circle?
I'd move more towards the realignment, but I'm still concerned about Ely Street having ability to take a left out of there. And right now, and it just, well, right now it won't be straight, currently it's straight across the.
Yeah, but they wouldn't be able to go
Be
straight.
doing that, they have left, right, and incoming. That's always been, yeah, since it's such that short distance,
Yeah,
any back up there.
Yep.
You know, we've shutting down the Second Street Bridge to one-way. Do we have to look at that on Ely? specifically, especially for like that left turn coming out there, because that'll be directly after the light, and nobody follows the traffic rules and leaves a gap. or
Right.
Very few.
Okay.
And then, of course, with that many lanes now, even if there is a gap, I don't know if I'd dare to make a left across 3 lanes of traffic that are all at a light that I can't see the incoming cars from 89 and M40.
Doug, can I ask just real quickly, and Joel, did the study indicate this is going to improve that Ely Street area? It's not going to cause more problems
That's
with
what
the
I recall,
realignment?
is that it would
It's not going
improve
to make it the best, but it will be better
Right.
through the okay, wonderful.
I figure it would make it better now that they actually have that extra lane there to have a dedicated left. Otherwise, with a straight-in left coming down towards Water Tower, that would just be cause traffic jams.
Okay.
The other question I would have for MDOT is when this traffic circle's there, the throughput's gonna be higher, isn't it, to allow for more traffic to flow and more consistently? What's that gonna do to the intersection at the Water Tower Hill? Because all of a sudden now we're gonna have probably a backup of traffic possibly at that light. And considering their ability on that light timing where they go from green light, then, or was it green arrow? Then they go back to red and then they go to green. I'm like, that's about the stupidest thing every time I come down that hill. Everybody here knows, well, it's just gonna go green here in a second. But why they would go and do that, causing that traffic all to jam back up. But now with this throughput, with a circle, you can get more cars through and continuously. So you'd no longer have light timing.
Right, I
So
understand.
is it gonna build up at the Water Tower Hill and cause issues for that and 222?
Okay, thanks, Peter. Teresa, what do you think?
I'm kind of where Roger is. I was all about the rounder, and Joel and I talked about it a couple of times, but once I seen, I'll be flat out honest, the pricing of it, that really scared me and set me back. And again, same as what the guys have said, the walking, the pedestrians, we have a lot of people who walk down Ely Street. And I think they walk because it is such a hard time getting out of there with a vehicle. So we wouldn't be helping them, be safe. But again, with Peter going just the realignment, I don't know that that's gonna help our Ely Street situation.
Well, it will help a little bit, they said, or it would improve it, but it's not going
That's what
to.
they say, yeah.
Oh, no.
How is it considered
So-
a 4-way intersection? Because you said it's a 4-way.
With the
intersection.
realignment?
Yeah, with the
Because there's,
realignment.
yeah,
4 legs.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, there's a
But they're
So
not,
there's-
they're not
section, and then a
including
4th
Ely.
road
They're-
a little ways out.
No, it's,
Just throws it off.
yeah, it's the 4, and then the Ely would be
And
the 5.
if you were to get rid of Ely, then everybody would be having to go down Trowbridge,
But
but
it's-
at least that's at a midpoint
It's
between the
just
two
M40
intersections.
coming into Hubbard and then 89 going through. That's your 4 legs.
Yeah, there's 4.
There's only lights for 4. It's not like that one on River Street in Holland.
And then Ely's up here.
No, coming in 2, 3, 4.
So, so Roger,
No.
This one across is 2, and that's 2.
Oh, okay.
And then Ely coming on with
It's not that oddball like in Holland on River where you're coming in where you got a light that's at an angle and
Yeah, right.
nobody knows when they're supposed to go,
30-second, yeah.
when it's tulip time.
Dave, what do you think?
I think that's probably a rough spot for Ely to be. For me, I think the timing is probably the biggest factor. Like, I think we've got to keep progression on this, and especially with the Second Street Bridge going one way, I think Hubbard being both in and out of town is probably going to be important. So I think we've got to really, I don't think we can delay it, and I don't think we can wait till really 2025 even, but 2028 is a no-go. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you. Bill, you have any thoughts? I know you're probably just seeing these for kind of the first time, but.
Being a new kid on the block, I haven't known about, living here all my life, you don't go down Ely Street and make a left-hand turn. You just don't do it. I haven't done it in 25 years, I don't believe. When I was younger, I was kind of stupid, so I did it, but since then, no. There's also another street down there, it's called South Cedar, that creates a problem on M40. I happen to know because I live there. and I have been almost hit, I don't know how many times, from people coming down and going too far to the right and scooting down through there. That's a part of that intersection that needs to be looked at as well, I think.
Thank you. Do you have a preference either way as far as the roundabout or
I'm leaning more towards the expansion, not the
the
roundabout.
realignment itself? Okay. And Mike, did you have any thoughts as far as that with these two options? Again, I know that you're kind of just seeing these, but I know you've had these conversations in your past council experience too.
Probably more toward the realignment.
Okay. And that's where I am personally leaning as well. Unlike a few of my co-council members here, I do not like roundabouts, and when anyone mentioned it, I was like, please, no. And, I got in a loop in Germany and couldn't get off one, so I'm scarred for life from that. But yes, I would definitely lean more towards the realignment and going with what Teresa and Roger and Peter have said, just with the traffic, not the traffic, excuse me, the pedestrian traffic, and having a light and actual crosswalks. I know Roger has mentioned many times when he lived over that way, how difficult it was. Was to cross, so that's kind of where I'm going as well. And it sounds to me like most of council is on that same page. So kind of where we're at. I guess they'll come back with their improved roundabout. I'm still gonna say no to it, but maybe it'll be a little bit different for everyone else, so. Is there anything else, staff, that you have about that? Feel like you're getting an idea? Okay, awesome.
We want
Okay.
any public comment on that, or normally we have at least some public comment because we said nothing on the agenda.
I mean, if anyone has anything to say, you're more than welcome. Come on up.
Good evening. I'm John Hantz, resident Allegan,
John, what's your address real quick for me?
255 Jackson.
Thank you.
More aligned with the realignment than the circle. I have a commercial driver's license, driven 20 years with commercial trucking. I've driven overseas as Peter in the UK. As Michael put it, yeah, Birmingham, it's under the road to get pedestrians through large intersection roundabouts. So you have to build an under road pathways to do that. Yes, we have a water table. Yes, we have clay soil. Yes, we have pipes, sewers, and gas lines that are all gonna have to be handled in that, which will exponentially throw your traffic circle number high. We also have farm implements, tractors, large loads, and another one that also is in there is lowboys, large lowboys. Personally, I've gotten detoured off of US 23 by Ann Arbor with an 18-wheeler going through a traffic circle that wasn't a truck route, but I had to do it. It was 3 lanes. I took 2.5. That was with a standard truck. You put the curbs, you put the ice and snow, you put the Michigan weather with it. It also is a lot more cleaning, scraping, curbs, and other things. And not to say anything about some of the elder drivers in Michigan, they don't understand the green light sometimes, and they kind of sit there, make sure it's green. They come to a roundabout, they don't take off because they're waiting for their clearing. So it just backs things up. The other thing I was going to talk about in your previous was your trash problem. This is a problem made by the city. It is a problem that, the downtown, and I also don't want to be burdening other people with who's paying for the dumpster downtown and services. That, that if you're going to put a common dumpster, that either they all pay a fair share usage or something along those lines to be able to use the dumpsters that are there. So, but yes, used to be the problem. What we used to have is now come back and something that you're going to do again. What's old was new again. I guess is the easy way to say it for you here on the council, because they took it out and now it's a problem and they're going back the other way again. Because, yeah, there used to be trash cans downtown. I remember having trash cans up on Hubbard Street because or whatever was happening. We've had guys on the curb there where we have to keep them there temporarily, but, so it's, you know, it's old as new again, and it's the same problem, just trying to find a new solution for it, so that's all I have for that.
Thank you. Before I move on, anybody else? Ideas or thoughts about the traffic? No? Okay. So we will go ahead and then move on to council training and our ethics ordinance review. Joel, I'll let you go ahead and start with the ethics ordinance.
All right, thank you. In your packet, you had a report from me, more of a reminder that we have an ethics ordinance for council members. As part of that ethics ordinance is a statement that you sign that more or less says you'll treat people with dignity and respect. We have to have this signed each year. I apologize, we didn't have the previous council sign it last year, but I'm gonna just blame that on COVID until council tells me I can't blame stuff on COVID anymore. But with the new council members being seated, I wanted to just do a friendly reminder. It is on the I printed off copies of the ordinance for you, and it's on the back page. It's the last page where you would sign that document at the bottom, agreeing to the ordinance and those statements. And then we will pick those up during the break from each of you.
Council, did anybody have any questions about this ordinance? I believe it was updated in 18 or 19?
Yeah, one of those two
Yeah,
dates.
'cause it was updated when I was on council. I think it was maybe early 19. No? Okay, if you want to take a second to review that, and then we'll sign and date. And Micheala, are you going to pick those up, or do you want us to drop? Okay. While everybody's looking at that, I'm just going to kind of go ahead and move on to some training. We do have some new and returning council members, but it's been a while for one of them. So I know in 2019, staff arranged for the MML to come in and do a training for council, and I found it extremely helpful, very beneficial. I wouldn't mind having a review of all of that myself, but I just wanted to see if that's something that council and our new council members would be interested in. We can ask staff to get a hold of the MML, have them come on in, give an overview of council roles and responsibilities. I think that would be helpful. Yeah,
Yes, I do.
that shakes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so. Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I've kind of been pretty vocal about is when I was appointed in 18, I felt kind of at a loss, and it's not that it's anyone's problem per se, but I'm hoping moving forward, we can provide the necessary training so people can make sound decisions and know basically what their part is. So staff, if you could do that, that would be awesome. And then another thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, and I've mentioned it to Joel and a couple council members, is the county, which I work for the county. They've got what's called a DISC. It's a kind of a personality communication style test. And what my office had done is we all took that test and then had an idea of kind of what our personal, I guess, communication styles were, how we like to get feedback from people, and I found it very helpful in dealing with my coworkers and with some new members. Again, I mean, some of us have been working together for a few years now, but I don't know if that's something anyone would be interested in. We don't necessarily have to do the DISC training itself, though. If that's something people would like to do, I can check with the county, see if we can maybe piggyback on their program. And that's something we could maybe look at doing at the strategic planning session, and then just kind of sitting down and discussing where we're at. And it just gives you ideas how to even interact with people that have a different maybe style than you do. So, Roger, you're kind of shaking your head, yeah? Mm-hmm. Peter, no.
They can be helpful.
Anybody else have any thoughts? Dave?
Yeah, I think there's some benefit to that, and just improving communication in general and cohesiveness, and especially when it comes to trying to make group decisions that can be really difficult to navigate everybody's personalities. So I could see benefit there.
Okay. Anybody else want to
I
speak?
think it's helpful.
Teresa?
I really do.
Okay. And if anyone is absolutely opposed to that, then I don't think that you would be forced to take it if you didn't want to. Mike or Bill, do you have any thoughts? Is that something that you would kind of be interested in? I mean, it will give us an idea of each other and, you know, best way to approach each other. And
Be fine with me.
yeah. Any thoughts, Bill? All right, cool. Well, I'm going to go ahead and kind of run with that one then, and I'll see if I can, like I said, get a hold of the county and move forward with that. Maybe get somebody to come actually do that or send it out via email, however we can, and then kind of compile some data. You will get like a printout if we do it through disk, and so it goes right to your email. Awesome. Next up, did anyone else have anything to say about that before we move on? No? Okay.
No, you're doing good.
A review of the council agenda. So did anyone see any additions or corrections for the agenda? Joel?
So just very quickly, we've been made aware that in the packet that we sent out, somehow I added minutes that were not complete, but we've taken care of that.
Roger, did you catch that?
Teresa captured someone that, Teresa also captured a small little error that we corrected on who made a presentation. The other thing is, I sent an email in the middle of October, or late October, about an emergency purchase order that I approved regarding the repair of a plow truck that we own, plow truck 235, over the weekend or late last week. As K&R Trucking was taking apart the turbo, they found several other issues that needed to be addressed since it was already taken apart. And we've gone ahead and approved those as well. That is in the hard copy was delivered to each of your desks today. Doug, there's an additional, we were at 12, right?
We're at 12, and then it jumps up
Looks like
to
it's 18.
18?
18,502.
So when we talk about that, so the way the purchase ordinance works, city manager has the right to do emergency purchase orders for, if it's an emergency. I have to make council aware of it, which I did through the email. Then it has to be recorded in the minutes of the next meeting, which is where we are now. And I'm going to be recommending that the number be changed from 12-something to 18. So I wanted to make you well aware of that change. I don't believe there's any other items I need to address for the council agenda for this evening.
Thanks, Joel. Did anyone have anything they want clarification on? Ask any questions of staff or anything over the agenda before we actually delve in at the regular meeting? No?
I emailed Joel some, but he answered them.
Okay.
I haven't read them, but he pretended like he answered them.
Okay. So our regular meeting is our business meeting. As current mayor, I will go ahead and run through the first few agenda items, and then I will turn it over to Joel to run from there, and then we will go back to whomever is elected mayor at that time to run the rest of the meeting. So, okay. Well, if there is nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. It's at 6:38. We'll adjourn study session and reconvene at 7. We'll do it.
Yeah, no problem. Councilmember Zeter. Councilmember Byrd.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Present.
Councilmember Redding.
Here?
Councilmember Morgan.
Here.
Mayor Pro-Tem Galloway.
Here.
Mayor Andrus.
Here. Thank you, Micheala. Sorry, old habits. Okay, if you could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Moving down the agenda, we're at agenda item number 4, which is an approval of the agenda. Under 4A, we have an approval of the regular council meeting agenda for November 8th, 2021. If there are no additions or corrections, could I get a motion to approve, please?
So, support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, if there's no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item number 5, which is an approval of minutes. Agenda item 5A is an approval of the study session minutes from October 25th, 2021 council meeting. Did anyone have any additions or corrections for this section? Staff, did you hear anything? No? Okay. Seeing no additions or corrections, could I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, if there's no discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
I will abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item 5B, which is an approval of the regular meeting minutes from October 25th, 2021 council meeting. Did anyone see any additions or corrections? No?
I did, but I think they fixed them.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So could I get a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no.
I will also abstain. I was not at that meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Motion carries. And now I'm going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to Joel, because this is our business section of the meeting.
Thank you, Mayor Andrus. Every year, the meeting following the regular election is when we select the mayor and mayor pro tem for the upcoming year. The way we do this in the city of Allegan is I will open the floor to nominations. There does not need to be second on nominations. There's no motions on nominations. It's just I nominate John Doe, and then John Doe says, I accept the nomination. And then we ask if there's any other nominations, and I nominate Jane Doe, and then Jane Doe says, I accept the nomination. And then ask if there's any more nominations. And once there's no more nominations, I will close the floor to nominations. And then what we do is a ballot process. Everybody has blank pieces of paper in front of you. I ask you to write down who you would like to be the mayor or mayor pro tem, depending on what we're voting on. Micheala then will gather them up. She will tally them, and she will say, who got the most votes. Understand the process? All right, we're first going to start with the mayor's position. So I'm going to open the floor for nominations for the mayor for the 2021-2022 year for the city of Allegan.
And nominate Delora Andrus for mayor.
I accept that nomination.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Okay, there are no other nominations. Okay, I will close the floor to nominations. I do not believe we have to do a secret ballot on this, so I think we should anyways. Go ahead and write down, let's play by the rules of the game. Well, good luck with that. Micheala will go grab those and tally those votes. Since we're not doing a vote of some kind, we'll just play by the rules we established. I'll wait for Micheala to get back to count and tally those votes.
We have 7 votes for Delora Andrus to be mayor.
All right.
Thank you all.
I will now move down to the position of Mayor Pro Tem for the 2021-2022 year here at City of Allegan. I'm going to open the floor for nominations for Mayor Pro Tem.
I nominate Teresa Galloway.
I accept that nomination.
Are there any other nominations? All right, please, since there are no other nominations, I'm going to close the floor for nominations. Please take this time to write down who you would like to be Mayor Pro Tem. And Micheala, you can start walking around and grabbing. Thank you, Micheala. I never thought there was one nomination. Never thought there'd be one nomination.
And we have 7 votes for Teresa Galloway as mayor pro tem.
Thank you for the lead, Dave. So that ends the selection for the mayor pro tem. Congratulations on your term for the next year. One other bit of business for this being the business part of the meeting. Staff just took a wild stab at putting nameplates up here. If you're not comfortable where we chose you to sit for the upcoming year, feel free to negotiate amongst yourselves. Except these 3 seats are where these staff members will sit. You can't sit over here. So,
Okay, well, thank you all very much. We'll go ahead and move on down to agenda item number 9, which is public comment. And this is an opportunity for anyone in the audience to come forward and make a public comment for an item that is not on tonight's agenda. Do we have any public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will move down to agenda item number 10, which is written petitions and reports from special committees. Under 10.8.1, we have a request from the Friends of Allegan's Oakwood Cemetery and its chapel on Saturday, June 25th, to use its chapel, I believe, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. to hold a one-day workshop on headstone preservation. Staff?
sure, Amanda Strickfaden is in the audience this evening. She is the person that submitted this request on behalf of the Friends of Allegan's Oakwood Cemetery. I'm going to ask you to come up to the podium, if you don't mind, and maybe give us a little brief explanation of the workshop and your organization.
Like Joel said, I'm Amanda Strickfaden. I'm the president of the Friends of Allegan's Oakwood Cemetery. We started our group October of last year. Both myself and my husband, as well as Tracy and Tim Perigo, are trained conservators in gravestone preservation and restoration. And this workshop would teach how to properly clean, level them if they're sunk in the ground or fallen over, how to replace them into their original proposed state, and fix breaks and infill any breaks that obscure any writing. We've been trained since 2017, and we'll have a few other conservators on hand that day. So there are other workshops that are around the United States, usually host about 30 participants, and it'll be hands-on and guided all the way through the event. Any questions?
Thanks, Amanda. Are there any questions, council, for Amanda? Okay. Well, thank you so much for the report, and I will say that I've seen some of the work you've done up there in the cemetery, and it's pretty incredible, the changes that you've made, so thank you. Okay, council, could I get a motion to approve this request if there's no questions?
I so move. I don't see any fee schedule anyways for use of the chapel, so I would support that. The conservatives are allowed to use it. It's a public interest.
Okay, it has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion, council? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have agenda item number 11, which is a report from boards, commissions, and city offices. Under 11A, city boards, commissions, and area agencies, we have 11A.1, which is a report from the Historic District Commission. Joel.
Thank you. Monday, November 1st, 2021, the Historic District Commission met for their regularly scheduled meeting. They had one application, 426 Trowbridge Street, requesting to replace 4 second-story wood windows with 4 vinyl windows. The windows are currently colonial-style wood windows with 6 divided lights, and the new windows will be colonial-style vinyl windows with 6 divided lights. With motion by McKenzie with support from Todd, Stacy Todd, to approve the replacement of the windows based on the interior standards of 1, 2, 3, and 11. The motion passed 3-1, with one Historic District Commissioner member, saying we should not be replacing wood with vinyl in the Historic District, so. Then there's a staff approval, sorry, Mayor Anders. There's also staff approval at 103 North Cedar. They're installing new gutters on the front and the rear of the house. 103 North Cedar is it's on the west side of Cedar, just north of Hubbard. Ely, just north of Ely, that general area that we talked about earlier.
Thanks, Joel. Next, we have 11B, which is our Finance Department. We have a request to approve accounts payable and payroll. Teresa?
Okay, we have accounts payable in the amount of $331,882.33, and payroll in the amount of $74,584.54, for a total disbursement of $466,466.87. Motion to approve.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. Council, is there any further discussion about accounts payable and payroll? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, under 11D is our water utilities. We have 11D.1, which is to approve a purchase order for Abonmarche in the amount of $37,350. Doug?
All right, so this spring, council approved the city water department and Abonmarche to submit project plans for low-interest loans on the water side and the sewer side for different projects around the city. On the water side, along with the loans, it was also submitted a project plan for what is called the Booker funds for replacing lead service lines. After the state reviewed all the project plans and arranged them in order that they saw in need of importance, the city has been awarded a Booker Fund loan, it's called Loan Upfront, for a total of $3 million for lead service replacement. I say it's called a loan upfront because once you apply or receive the money and the project is done, as long as you meet all the criteria, the loan is forgiven. So ultimately, it is a $3 million grant that the city will receive for lead service replacement. To receive this money, we have to continue on. We have different milestones to submit information to the state to receive the money. First milestone is coming up on November 15th. We have to have initial plans submitted to the state. What this purchase order is requesting is for Abonmarche to continue working with us to do the plans and submit that to the state, and then ultimately through the first part of this program to help us do what is needed to meet the other milestones to receive this money.
Thanks, Doug. Council, are there any questions of Doug regarding this item?
Yeah, I have a question. Didn't we already have a plan to start replacing lead service pipes?
Yes, the plan we have in place now is based on our budget and revenue, and is based on what the state requires us to replace lead service at a average of 5% per year for a total of 20 years. This puts more money into the pot, $3 million for us to use to replace these lead services.
Okay, so you can't use the plan we have to submit, we need Abonmarche to do this?
Yes, so the plan we have is more of a budgetary plan, a broad plan. They need detailed drawings of how the services are gonna be replaced. They need list of addresses, which we have a list of addresses, but they need drawings, they need specifications of what materials are gonna be used and how they're gonna be replaced.
Okay.
Yeah, the way I would word it as a staff member is what we had was outline a direction to Eagle, because Eagle's requiring us to replace our lead service lines at 5% per year. We have about 1,900 that we identified. We told Eagle we have about 1,900. These are the streets, these are the address ranges, and this is how we're gonna afford it. And it's, we're gonna budget money to do this. Since we received the Booker funds, we have to submit detailed plans now. It's not an interchangeable term from my perspective. These detailed plans, as Doug mentioned, is the exact addresses we're gonna attack with the Booker funds, the specifications, how we're gonna deal with, the connections, et cetera. Before, what we put together as staff was just a direction to address the new law that the state came up with, was it 2 years ago?
Yes.
So, $3 million that we're getting through this, I mean, it is a $3 million grant. Earlier this year, you approved about $40,000 for us to hire Abonmarche to put the project plan together. That project plan has resulted in a $3 million grant that eventually will be, that's gonna benefit the residents. This next step right now is so we can get that actual money going and we can make sure we hit the milestones and, what's required of that grant. Does that help make it a little bit clearer for you?
Yep.
Okay.
Peter, did you have a question?
Yeah, of course, when we get this grant money, are we gonna, of course, have to go back and review our budget and our plans that we're using with Eagle? Because roughly, if we did at 5,000, we maxed out the per line, where it's roughly 600 locations, and I'd hope we'd be able to do better than 5,000 of location, depending on what's needed. Because I think previously we were at 3 to 4 with the plumbers approximately, depending on how
the
far.
length of service, in-house, we've replaced them for is, I'm gonna say little as 1,500, and longer lines, more labor-intensive lines are probably approaching 3,000, 3,500.
So we might be able to get a lot more done out of that. If we do 600, that's 600 out of the 1,900. If we really make a stretch, Maybe we can push it to 900 service connections out of our, cutting out half of it, of what we need to get done with this money. And then that, of course, is gonna really adjust out how much we have to budget to replace all the rest of the lines over the time that we're required to do it, or if we wanna accelerate it and say we wanna get it done with and just be done in advance and say we're doing 10% a year instead of 5 or whatever. That way we just get it done and get it out of our way, I think is where I wanna go with it. And I'm happy to see grant funds or loans that turn into grants that will help this accelerate a bit. And we stop having to talk every other, every third meeting about lead replacement would be nice.
Our goal with this is to replace all the lead service lines that have already had copper installed with new water mains, so from the water main to the curb stop. So then this would just replace from the curb stop into the structure. Right now, we count 869 of those, so that would be our goal, with this money. Yeah, roughly half. The reason we picked those is because then we're not disturbing the streets, going all the way to the water main, which would add additional costs to it. So we figure by targeting these water services, it'd be more bang for the buck. We can get more done, with the money.
Yeah, stay ahead of that 5% that we have to do a year, and
Yeah.
that will be good. for-
And then over the next 20 years, the water mains or the services that do have to go to the water main, those are older water mains. Those will be worked into some type of project throughout the next 20 years.
All right.
Thanks, Doug. Were there any other questions, council, for Doug? No? Okay. Seeing none, could I get a motion, please, to approve the purchase order for Abonmarche?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Mike. Can I get a support?
Support.
It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
Next, under 11F, City Manager and City Clerk, we have 11F.1, which is to authorize the city manager to enter an agreement with Grand Rapids Red Project to establish a mobile health unit on Tuesdays between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. in the parking lot at the corner of Cutler Street and Chestnut Street. Joel?
Sure. Earlier this year, Jay Gibson, our police chief, brought me into a discussion with Allegan County Community Mental Health and their relationship with the Grand Rapids Red Project, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that provides services such as early prevention, testing, syringe access, HIV case management, and overdose prevention throughout West Michigan. They've been trying to find a place in Allegan to provide this service as well. What they would like to do, as they looked around Allegan, really the downtown is a location they would like to set up. This mobile unit on the screen behind you is a picture of what the vehicle looks like. It's really a nondescript kind of vehicle. They would park in one of our parking spaces per the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, on Tuesdays from 11 to 3. We have a 30-day notice where we can, terminate this relationship. Talking with representatives from CMH, talking with our police department, they really see this as being beneficial, to the Allegan community. I will tell you, it's probably the first, since I've been here, the first time we've kind of reached out a little bit into that health, public health field. And so I'm excited about this idea. I think there could be a benefit to it. I did require them that they have that 30-day where if things just don't go right, or if, council starts getting too much of a pushback, we can, terminate that relationship quickly. But the meetings have been really, really, positive. We're excited to bring this forward. And, it's really a recommendation from the police department and myself that we dip our toes in the water on this item and this issue and, see if we can make it work in Allegan. Any questions for
Thank
me?
you, Joel. Any questions, council? Yeah, absolutely. Could I get a motion then, please, to authorize the city manager to enter into the agreement with Grand Rapids Red Project? It has been moved and supported. If there's no further discussion, council, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, say no. Motion carries. Next, we have 11F.2, which is an acceptance of a report from the city manager authorizing emergency repairs to truck number 235 of the Department of Public Works. Doug or Joel? Doug?
235 is a plow truck, obviously, and city staff noticed that it was going through engine coolant. We couldn't find a leak or anything, so we sent it up to K&R Truck. They did an initial diagnostics on it. They felt the turbo needed replacing on the diesel engine. They gave us a quote of $12,000, just shy of $13,000, which is in the memo. Like was suggested earlier, I received an email late Friday that because the engine coolant went through the turbo and out the exhaust, there's some additional exhaust issues that arose. So now the current price is $18,257.24. That's the new estimated cost to get it repaired.
Thank you, Doug. Joel, did you have anything to add?
I would just let council know the reason why I approved this, through the emergency ordinance is we're coming into our winter season. And while today was beautiful and yesterday was beautiful, having operational dump trucks is especially necessary during this time of the year. So that's why I said, let's just get this going, right away. K&R is one of the few, if not our preferred.
It's an international truck, the international engines. They're the only place around that actually work on their engines. We're looking for other vendors, so if you know of any that may touch it international, please send them our way. We'll place in contact with them. But that's who does the international repairs for us.
That was the other reason why I was like, we just need to get this going. We can't go out for bid. We can't find another, entity that works on international, so.
Thank you. Council, did you have any questions regarding this? No?
No, the only question I
Peter?
have is one of the plow trucks currently out being rebuilt, or is that not left yet?
Do we refurbish?
Yeah, refurbished.
We sent it up to Valley Truck Parts. It was just similar to one that's on screen. They said the dump box won't be delivered until April, so we have that back in our fleet.
Okay.
There's still a chance that the Salter truck that you approved will be done in December, but we're waiting on a delivery date from the vendor.
I understand that delivery dates are all over the place right now, but that was my other concern, is if we have one truck already out on service and another one down, so. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, council? No? Okay, seeing none, could I get a motion, please?
Let me see here. Motion to approve the purchase order, the expense at $18,757.
18,257.24.
Well, the total at the bottom of this guy is 18,757.24, because it includes a $500 shop supply.
Okay.
Would the motion be just to say that's okay? Because it was emergency.
It's just
Yeah, it was-
approval.
Yeah, in a way you're kind of,
I'm just approving,
Okay, all right.
just approve.
stating what the,
you're like accepting it, but you're also approving that the city manager did it.
yeah.
Okay, all right.
Won't come back and smack me upside the head in 2 weeks and said, why'd you do this, Joel?
Man.
So it's like accepting it, but yeah.
Okay.
Support.
Thank you. It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion, council? No? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Next, we have 11F.3, which is an appointment of Micheala Kleehammer as city clerk and her oath of office. Joel?
All right. Earlier this year, the previous city clerk, Chris Tapper, left for the village of Decatur to be their village manager. We put out applications for deputy clerk. I had council appoint me as interim clerk at that time. We hired Micheala on September 13th, 2021, and I would say she's been nothing short of a rock star for us since coming here. The election last week went off without a hitch. I had many people pull me aside and thank me for making such a great hire, and I'm like, well, there's a team that chose her, and really she's just outshining us right now, which is really good. One of our more, what I'll call critical residents, has reached out to us to let her know how wonderful the minutes are, and she looks forward to reading the minutes because they're so much clearer now, and she finally knows what the city council's doing since Micheala took over minute writing. So that was a very, very good kind of, compliment for Micheala. So I'm at a point now where I'm confident I no longer need to be interim city clerk for the city, per the city charter. I recommend who the clerk is, but council, you actually have to make a motion to appoint her as clerk. So it is my recommendation that you appoint Micheala as the city clerk. With that will be a job title change that will make effective immediately, and then I have to give her an oath of office to make it official. So we do need a motion to appoint her as city clerk.
Thanks, Joel. I just have a quick question. I know at one point we had discussed you maintaining the city clerk position and having a deputy clerk. Is this just a testament to how wonderful Micheala's doing? That,
It
okay,
is a testament of how wonderful she's doing.
okay, absolutely wonderful. Okay, are there any other questions, council? Peter, you look quizzical. No?
Well, the only thing was the resident that reached out with the minutes, you can also send her the YouTube link so that she can start also watching it, you know.
Yes, we can.
So I'll make a motion to approve Michael Kleehammer as city clerk for the city of Allegan.
Micheala.
Micheala. I was trying to make sure I pronounced the last name right and heard the first.
I
No
support that motion.
It has been moved and supported. Is there any further discussion, council? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, say no. Motion carries. Congratulations, Micheala.
Oh, we're gonna go out there like everyone else. Raise your right hand. I, Micheala Kleehammer,
I, Micheala Kleehammer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and will faithfully and truly perform the duties of city clerk,
and will faithfully and truly, what was it?
perform the duties of city clerk
Okay, perform the duties of city clerk
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
All right. You just sign right there, friend. I'll just sign right here. I'll give that right back to you.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Well, congratulations, Micheala. And thank you, Joel, for stepping in and being our interim city clerk. Appreciate it.
No skin off my teeth, that was easy.
Next, we have agenda item number 12, which is board appointments. Under 12.8.1, we have an appointment of Kristen Stein to the Historic District Commission with a term set to expire on December 31st, 2024. Staff, did you have anything to report on this? Hi, Kristen. Well, thank you for being here, and thank you for applying for this commission. So I'd received her application, and I had reviewed that and made the recommendation for the appointment. So I just need council to approve that appointment. So if I could get a motion, please? Thank you. It has been moved and supported. If there's no discussion or questions, did anyone have any questions before we move on for Kristen? No? Okay. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed, say no. Motion carries. Well, welcome, and thanks again. And next, we have agenda item 12.8.2, which is an appointment of Tracy Perigo to the Planning Commission with a term set to expire on December 31st, 2024. Again, I received the application and thought this would be a pretty good appointment. So I'm recommending that Tracy Perigo be appointed to the Planning Commission.
So move.
Support.
It has been moved and supported. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carries. And next, we're to agenda item number 13, which is the communications from city manager, council, and mayor. Joel, did you have anything to communicate this evening?
Yeah, and it might be a little bit of a communication here, so just bear with me. As council is well aware, a previous council made a motion that they're in favor of the dam, the Allegan City Dam, the one we own. They're in favor of it being removed if we can come to a conclusion or a consensus of its design and if we can pay for it. Shortly after that, the previous council established a Allegan City Citizen Dam Committee. They met once, COVID hit, and then things just kind of got put on pause as we were trying to figure out how to, work with this new citizen committee. During that time frame, staff didn't stop working. We've secured a $360,000 grant from the EPA to pay for 100% of the engineering to remove the dam, look at the powerhouse, which is the structure on the Kalamazoo River behind Riverbanks Pet Resort, fill in the Mill Pond area, which is the area between the bridge that goes to the Mill District and the powerhouse, and then 30% design of the channel, as well as 30% design of the park that will be, have to be created because we're in a, exposed river bottom lands. You have to do 100% of the engineering of the dam removal and the powerhouse and the Mill Pond, because what happens to that will affect the channel design and the park design. You can't do the park design without knowing what the dam's gonna be. We had a couple committee members that were confused why we're going that way and not the opposite way, because people get excited about the park. So we got that grant from the EPA. First, it came from the state of Michigan. Then the EPA stepped in and said, we'll pay for it instead of the state of Michigan. So there was a lot of changing hands, and moving game pieces. Last week, we heard from the EPA that they are fine if we just work with AECOM, AECOM, that's the engineering firm. AECOM is out of Traverse City, is their closest office that we worked with. They did the original concept design, you'll recall, that we had done through the DNR. Mark Mills is our representative at the DNR. They did the original design. The EPA really wanted us to go out for bid for engineering services again, and Mark Mills and I kept on going. We already have someone at the table that knows the city, that knows this project. We don't need to go out for bid, and they finally signed off today that we can just, use AECOM. So I'm going to be bringing you a purchase order at your next meeting in the amount of $360,000 for AECOM, as well as that grant from the EPA. I wanted to, we finalized that this afternoon. I'll send you out an email as well, but I don't want you to be, surprised at the last meeting in November before Thanksgiving when you see a $360,000, PO and say, what's this all for again? So the project is still moving forward. This is a milestone that we have to hit before we get to the next steps. Engineering representatives for Georgia Pacific called me today out of the blue, just curious on what's going on. So they're still, out there fluttering around in space with some eyes focused on Allegan. So I just wanted to make you guys aware this evening that, that project is still moving on. Staff has been doing a lot of work, some heavy lifting, just because we haven't been meeting as a citizen committee. I think, Bill, you're on the citizen committee as a citizen, but now as a council member. Rachel was on it as a council member, so I'm gonna have to work with Micheala and look into that committee, look at the resolution that created it. We might have to be making some different kind of appointments in the near future. Any questions about what I just shared with you on that? It's the earliest I can get it to you, Teresa. My favorite council member right now, so.
Okay, thanks, Joel. Is there anything else?
Roger, you've inquired about the stage lights still being on. It's a bad photocell. For some reason, photocells are caught up in the supply issue we have. So it's coming in. However, I heard this afternoon that Todd Heckman, Doug Codsman hopped on the phone and made some phone calls. Todd has access to one, so we're hoping we can, switch that out. Photocell was busted on the stage lights and the riverfront lights, so they're on 24/7 because there's nothing to tell them to turn off. And I'm not comfortable having those off at nighttime. So we just keep them running, full time. The fireplace I've had a couple people reach out to me. Again, Councilmember Byrd has reached out to me about only half the fireplace is working. It's because the igniter on the west side is burned out or broken. That project, that piece of equipment will be shipped to us hopefully by the end of this month. So in December, we'll have to take out all the lava rock, the glass, fix the igniter, put the lava rock back in and the glass back in. So those are updates for you there on some issues on that. And I'll remind council that Wednesday or Thursday is Veterans Day. City Hall will be closed on Veterans Day with our new holiday schedule. I sent an email to everyone. I have to go to Kalamazoo to look at some street furniture. Everyone's invited, so if you want to drive down there, you got the address and the time, so feel free to meet me down there. But if more than 4 of you are going, please let me know so we can schedule a public meeting, because we don't want to be in violation of the Open Meetings Act. I have not heard from anyone, so it might be a trip of 1 for Joel. That's okay. That is all I have.
Thanks, Joel. Parker, did you have anything tonight?
Just quickly, keen eyes will notice that the holiday decor has started to be put up throughout the downtown by our Department of Public Works employees. Those will all be up and ready by the Thanksgiving holiday, which then means that our Festive Fridays and New Year's Eve event will go on as scheduled, so.
Thank you. I had noticed that. Micheala, anything from you tonight? Ryan? Doug? Or Doug?
Just congratulations to the new and re-elected council members and to Mayor and Mayor Pro-Tem for being renominated and elected.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doug.
Appreciate it. Okay, Mike, any comments for you tonight?
Oh, it's exciting to be back in the seat, and looks like there's some good things coming our way, so.
Absolutely. Roger, anything from you? Our feet on the street, that's what I'm going to call you now.
Yeah. Joel, it's gonna rue the day when I move downtown. 'Cause I got nothing to do but look out my window and walk around. I appreciate you getting back, though. I'm trying to be helpful, because I know you guys can't be everywhere all the time.
It is
I'm trying
appreciated.
to inform.
Peter?
Only one is, when is Cutler Street parking lot lighting gonna get actually installed? I know that's Consumers, I believe, is the one that's gotta do that, but that parking lot is dark as sin.
So when we did the design, we took out 2 lamps.
Yep, one's right there.
Yep, one is right there, and I noticed it maybe last week, I noticed that alleyway is probably too dark.
Yeah, it's pitch dark in there.
Yeah.
I had mentioned when we were doing the design, I was concerned about that.
Yep, and it's been proven right that that is too dark, so we're gonna have to look at getting light on that driveway there. I know off Water Street, did Consumers put up that Cobra light for us? On Water, there's the pole right next to the entrance, and we put a request into Consumers to put a light on that area. I don't think so either. So we were gonna do some on the Water Street, because it's also not there, but this area, we took a light out as part of the plan, and
We took a pole out.
a
and the
pole
and
out,
the-
with the idea that we'll put a light in if needed, and obviously it's needed, so we're gonna address that.
I didn't know if we have to talk with Country House and be like, can we mount it on your wall maybe, or figure out what we want to do? or if
Yeah,
need to
we
put it
might
on the
go
street.
across the street tomorrow and talk to Joel at Country House, and, maybe if we can just get away with a wall pack right now. But part of our streetscape, we wanna make sure we put in, the poles are uniform when we do our streetscape.
Yeah,
So that's a little bit of the hiccup.
and we don't know what the lights are gonna look like, but yeah, it's just, I park over there right now to try to save spots out front for the public, and yeah, when I go to my car, it is dark, dark, dark.
Thanks, Peter. Teresa, anything from you?
I have a question for Joel. How old is that fire pit? It seems like it's not that old to be having stuff going bad already.
No, that's 2018. Yeah, because that came in 17, and that was the first big project I did.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So is that,
we can ask that question. That's a great question to ask.
question it, yeah, because it doesn't seem that old.
Yeah, for that igniter to go out the way
Yeah,
it did.
exactly.
The other thing we have down there, even when the igniter's working, the wind coming off the riverscape there, the river,
Oh,
It does, push the gas out before it can ignite. So that's a little bit of a hiccup thing we have.
okay.
Now, overall, I received nothing but praise, not praise from me, but, compliments. People like that fireplace. It's
Oh,
well
I
used.
know they do.
But
That's
the
why
igniter
I'm-
not working is frustrating.
Yeah, yep, yeah,
So,
okay, all right,
But we can look into that.
okay. And then what is the furniture that you're going to look at?
So as
For-
part of the downtown streetscape,
Okay.
we got to pick out light poles. We got to pick out, trash cans, receptacles, all that stuff. That has to be part of the process. So I'm going to, it's called Landscape Forms, just outside Kalamazoo.
Yep.
They design, manufacture these street
If you
furniture.
talk to Emily Lonsberry, that'd be my niece.
Is she there? Okay.
I just was curious what you,
Yeah.
okay.
I went there 3 years ago when we first started talking about downtown stuff.
Okay, yeah,
Uh,
okay,
They're the closest one to go kick tires, and I like to kick tires. So we really know what things look like besides a brochure, thing.
okay.
Would they have bike racks there too?
Oh, they have everything.
Okay.
If you're free on Thursday and you want to drive down to Kalamazoo, I'll be there at 10:30.
And welcome, Micheala, to your new position.
Thank
Been
you.
doing awesome, so.
Thank you.
Anything else, Teresa? Okay. Dave, anything from you?
Nothing from me, thanks.
Okay. And Bill? Do you have any comments this evening?
Just looking forward to working with the rest of the council and looking into enforcement of some of our, excuse me, whatchamajiggers. That's the word, thank you, Joel. CRS, I hate it. But anyways, like I
Okay.
said, looking forward. Congratulations to Laura, Teresa. Congratulations, Micheala.
All right, and for me, just again, want to reiterate a welcome to our new and returning council members and Micheala. And just kind of, I know that I've shared this on Facebook, I think Roger did too, but to see some of the positive press that Allegan is getting again is really wonderful. So I don't know if everybody saw that snippet that was shared. So keep up the good work, staff, and word's getting out. We're a place to be. So with that, I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 7:47. Council, stay seated because we need to get our photos.